was, and they were also past the prime of their career. Wiggins is that's a good risk to take. You're going to have a player that, out of the entire NBA, I guarantee you there's 10 GMs out there that would say, yeah, I like Wiggins. So at least you have him. He's yours. And even if it doesn't work out in a couple years, he's still, I think, got some value in the trade market where you can get some assets back.
Alan Sliwa here of ESPN 710. You can follow him at Lakers Talk ESPN. Alan, thank you so much for giving me the time.
You got it, buddy.
All right, we've got a lot to get to today. We just covered up the Timberwolves situation. It's a shame. It's a real shame of how this went. It's a real shame that just like that, your team, who just won 46 games in the playoffs, is now looking at probably another missed year of the playoffs. I'm sorry. I love Towns and I like Wiggins. They're just not. Those two are just not good enough to lead this team into the playoffs, to be completely honest with you. The West is too good. It's too good. But we've got bigger fish to fry because there is a panic, okay, with me especially, with the Minnesota Vikings and what the heck has went on with the defense, with the off-the-field issues, with Everson Griffin, with everything that has went on this year. I mean, can you imagine? Let's go back to August in training camp. Would we ever be having this conversation at the end of September if the Vikings were good enough, if the Vikings are good, if they're in trouble, that they're 1-1? I mean, not in a million years did I think what happened to them against Buffalo would happen. You were looking, 17-point favorites were blown out. And listen, it explains a little more of why they were so bad. I think their head wasn't in it with this whole Griffin thing. Is just horrible. I mean, Everson Griffin not only is the motor on that defense, but everyone loves Everson. I mean, I love him. The fans love him. And to hear this story, it's very sad. It's very sad, and I hope he gets the help he needs because, this is more than football at this point. Football, I'm crazy about football, but you know what? At the end of the day, we need this guy to be healthy. He's got a wife. He's got a family. He's got to make sure he's healthy, number one. Now, the big question that I've been pondering this whole week, you like that, pondering? Yeah, Christian pondering. Is this defense situation? Are they overrated? Are the Minnesota Vikings defense overrated with names like Harrison Smith, Linville Joseph, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, Sheldon Richardson, Xavier Rhodes? Is this a defense that's overrated? So I did some calculations here, and I want to read you guys this real quickly, okay? So let's look at the points by half since the NFC divisional round, which was against the Saints. So first half, shut down the Saints, 0. Second half, 24 points. NFC Championship, first half, 24 points. Second half, 14 points. 49ers, first half, 3. Second half, 13. Green Bay, first half, 17. Second half, 12. Buffalo, first half, 27. Second half, 0. So the last 5 games, the Vikings defense has given up 26.8 points the last 5 games. Is that a Mike Zimmer defense? There's something that has went on. There's something that either Philly or New Orleans or whoever it was discovered to beat this defense. I mean, they're doing something. I don't know if they're just attacking or, Harrison Smith, Xavier Rhodes. I don't know if they're doing a different blocking scheme, but boy, it feels like a long time where you kind of sat and said, man, this defense dominated. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what has happened. This was a team that their success was predicated on defense. Now, do we need Kirk Cousins to go out and throw 350? You signed this guy to manage the game, throw for 200 yards, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and that would be good enough. Now what's good enough? I mean, I know this comes out on Sunday, so we're going to know the result. But me thinking about tomorrow night's game in LA, I'm petrified. I'm petrified because The season could end the next 2 weeks. You've got the Rams and you've got the Eagles. You're going to tell me you're going to drop to 1-3-1? This whole tie thing is screwing me up. 1-3-1? I mean, is it over? Just like that, is it over? All these hopes, all these dreams, aspirations, after 4 weeks, 5 weeks, is it over? And by the way, I bought tickets to the Cardinals-Viking game. So, I mean, come on, let's go. That needs to be a good game. But the Rams and Eagles back-to-back. I mean, I don't want to call it a must-win, one of them, but it might be. It might be one of those times. It's big time it's a gut check time for the Vikings tomorrow. And like I said, I'm ticked off that I can't talk about it after the game. I usually, I get to preview the Sunday game because that's when it comes out. But man, it's gut check time for this Mike Zimmer team. How are you going to respond? You just got embarrassed at home by arguably the worst team in the league. And now you're going to arguably play the best team in the league on the road on Thursday night, short week, without your best defensive end. You going to step up? Or are you going to fold? You're going to learn a lot about this Viking team. Because you kind of have the last 5 games here. You learned a little about the Saints. Okay, well, when everything goes right, they're good. But as soon as the Saints figure something out in the second half, they couldn't get a stop. And you learn a lot about them in the Eagle game. They quit. In the 49er game, there's high hopes, but you give up 13 points the second half, and it was closer than expected. I mean, let's not forget, 8-point game, last possession. 49ers had the ball. And then the Green Bay, 29 points. I know it was a blocked field goal, and you held them to 5 field goals. But still, Rodgers moved the ball. They had a couple chances to win that game, including at the end of the fourth quarter. No timeouts. On the 20. Rodgers, just completely goes right up the field, lines up for a field goal. Zimmer iced Crosby, and unfortunately for the Vikes, he missed it. But boy, it makes me second think, is this defense really elite? The Bills' defense looked better than way better than the Vikings on Sunday. My next big concern is the offensive line. Okay, I've stressed this to many of you. I've stressed this to everyone that I talk to. The Vikings don't have a good offensive line, even to start with Nick Easton and Pat Eflin. They don't. They have an average offensive line. They had an average one last year. They have an average one in the beginning of training camp. Nick Easton, Riley Reif, Pat Eflin, Rashad Hill. They're average. Very average. You take away Nick Easton and Pat Eflin, what are they? They're bad. Great. You got Brett Jones from the Giants. It's still bad. Last Sunday was embarrassing. Kirk Cousins made one read on a slant, and he's got guys in his face. The most vital position in the NFL is offensive line. And if you can't block, you can't do anything. You can't run the ball. You can't open up holes for Dalvin Cook. You can't do play action. You can't open things up down the field. You can't do anything. That's why I wish the Vikings would have put more money into the offensive line, those trenches, because at the end of the day, the Eagles have a great offensive line. They won the Super Bowl last year with a so-called backup quarterback. You need to have someone to protect your quarterback, open up holes, and open up the playbook for John DeFilippo. You have to. And I want to just say something about the Bills game real quick, and I know it's going to be old news when it comes out Sunday, but everything that had to go wrong for the Vikings did, and everything that had to go right for the Bills did. The fumbles went right in the Bills' hands. Diggs drops a touchdown. Can't say anything about him, though. Everything that had to go wrong went wrong. The hurdling of Anthony Barr, who I'm very down on right now. The horse collar. The picks. Everything that had to go wrong went wrong on Sunday. How are you going to respond? Now, another thing I want to talk about is the communication aspect of all of this. I don't think people understand, and they should, how important communication is in sports. It's vital. It's the number one thing in successful teams. If you don't communicate offensively, defensively, in sports, you're not going to be successful. You're just not. And what I'm hearing, because obviously you can't hear on the field. I'm not going to pretend like I hear everything on the field. But what Mike Zimmer has been saying in his press conferences is that our communication is not good. They're not talking. I mean, the Josh Allen fake screen to a wheel route for a touchdown, I mean, that's inexcusable. That's inexcusable. Andrew Sandeo caught napping. They need to start communicating. And I'm definitely going to be looking at this tonight, or Thursday night. Definitely going to be looking at it. Look how these guys are communicating with each other. If they're all lollygagging around and they're not saying anything, they're not going to be successful. You have to be able to communicate, especially on the defensive end. And this is a huge, huge, huge test because the Rams are flying high right now. They've beaten every team by double digits. They've pretty much handled everyone pretty easily. They've got a plethora of weapons with Todd Gurley, with Jared Goff, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks. They've got a lot of weapons. And another thing is, the Vikings have beat them the last 3 times, so they're going to come out and they're going to be ready. They're going to be fired up. Vikings beat them 24-7 last time. I know it was close in the fourth quarter, but beat them pretty handily. This is going to be a rough game, and I think for the Vikings to win this, they need to stay in the 20s. Don't get into a track meet with this team. So I got a couple of things here. First key is the offensive line. How are you going to block Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh? How are you going to respond? Because Pat Eflon is probably going to play the whole game now. He played some snaps last game, couple drives. He's going to be the guy now. Riley Reif's hurt. So Brett Jones is going to be in. Rashad Hill has been on and off. There's a lot of question on that offensive line. But if they don't figure it out, it's going to be a long game. If you thought the Buffalo game was bad, if you can't block, I mean, the defense just isn't going to be able to make enough stops. Like I said, I still believe in the defense. The numbers are alarming, but you can't have them defend the whole time. Because I think that's kind of what happened in this Buffalo game. The offense couldn't get anything going. So, I mean, defense is out for about 5 minutes and they're back on the field with 3 and out. Defense gets gassed. They get mental fatigue. You can't have that happen. You got to establish a run game early against the Rams, and you got to take long possessions. Keep that offense on the field, off the field, and keep that defense on the field because they're going to be short with Peters and Talib being out. So we have our fair share of injuries. They have their fair share of injuries. But the difference is, are you going to exploit them? Are you going to be able to throw the ball to Diggs and Thielen, to those backup cornerbacks? Because they're going to be open. There's no doubt they're going to be open. Will the offensive line give them enough time? That's the big question here. Huge game for everyone on that team. I told you, it's gut check time for this team, for this Minnesota Vikings football team. You talk about Super Bowls, you talk about bringing one to the state of Minnesota. Gut check. Look in the mirror. Huge, huge game mentally. You can beat this team physically. You have the players, you have the talent to beat the Rams. You have the talent to beat any team in this league. But mentally, do you believe in yourselves? Do you believe you can beat this team? And do you have the focus to listen to this game plan that Mike Zimmer is going to put together and follow it? Because if you do those things, you have a pretty good chance. But right now, no one's giving you a chance. 6.5-point underdogs this Thursday. 6.5. You going to rally together for Everson Griffin? The offensive line going to come together, work as one unit, open up holes for Dalvin? Is Kirk going to have a bounce-back game after last week? Which, by the way, not his fault. Anyone blaming Kirk Cousins for the losses, I mean, you're just lost. You're lost. It's a huge, huge game. Dang it, I wish I was on Sunday. Wish I could talk about it. I'm praying that when I listen to this, that I'm going to be happy with the results. I also want to get into a little Kirk Cousins because there's a lot of backlash. People, I mean, when I tell you, when the Vikings lose, you would think that the franchise is being deported with the texts I get, with the calls I get. Vikings stink. Kirk Cousins. I'm going to say this to every person that texts me or wants to talk to me at the Vikings. Did you watch the game? Well, no, I looked at the stats. Don't waste my time.